Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm sure neither Seplat nor Roger Brown need any introduction. Do they? No, not really sure. But I'm sure there's a whole lot on your profile at Seplat that really interests my audience this morning and everyone who's been looking at your company. By the way, some folks are a little bit sorry they didn't buy your shares quite early on the Nigerian exchange when it was around 300, before it hit the 3,000 level, the 1,000 level. And I said, well, you can always come in and get more value. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together first for this very great company, indigenous company, and we're very happy. We're going to talk about a few things, but let's start with your acquisition, which seems to headline what you've done in recent years, and I'm trying to find out from you what the philosophy was behind how you decide what assets to pick and what values are inherent in those assets when you acquire them. Talk to me.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Let me start off by wishing my Nigerian brothers and sisters a very happy Independence Day today. So 65 years of independence. Congratulations, everyone.
And you put in that touch of green and white.
Pardon?
You put in that touch of green and white.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. That's
for today, yeah, definitely. So, look, acquisitions, there are many things we could talk about, what we look at before we go into it. I think I'll just cover a couple in the time we have. I guess the first one to start off with is strategic fit for us as a business. Does it fit within our ethos, what we're looking after, what we're looking at? Do we have the skills? Do we have the technical skills? I'll give you an example. We are, as a company, onshore Niger Delta and in the shallow water offshore. We don't have a lot of experience in deep water exploration, for instance. So the strategic fit. Then also, what are you buying? And importantly, what are you paying for it and what returns you can get out of it? So, are you paying up for producing assets with little upside? Or are you looking at assets where you can work? And this is one of the successes of Seplat, is where we convert contingent resources into reserves and produce them. So what are your return criteria going to be? And then I guess on the softer side of things is, what risks you're coming along with the acquisitions. What are your ESG considerations? Are there lots of liabilities? Are you flaring gas? All the commitments you've made as a company, do these acquisitions fit within that? And Seplat, has been very active. So since 2010, I think we've done 5 acquisitions. We're now gone from 3 blocks in 2010. Oliver had it on his chart earlier. We've gone from 3 acquisitions, or 3 assets initially, to 11. We're 11 blocks, 7 onshore, 4 offshore in the shallow water, 48 producing fields, 5 gas plants. So it's, Seplat has, over the 15 years of its life, grown quite rapidly.
Quite interesting. But, in my experience, and everyone who knows about mergers and acquisitions, it takes a whole lot to integrate what you already have and what you're buying, and combining old and new assets together to derive value and ensure that your operational excellence, your trajectory don't really change because you're carrying a new asset. So talk to me about how you were able to integrate new assets into the trajectory, the path that you already have at Seplat, ensure that everything stays on course.
Our first 3 acquisitions were asset acquisitions. And so we're buying assets. And therefore, you just assess on the asset alone and fit within the company. Our last 2 acquisitions have been corporate acquisitions. And corporate acquisitions means a living, breathing company with assets, liabilities, a track record, and very importantly, people, which means culture. And that is one of the first things we look at in any corporate acquisition is, do the cultures fit? Now, if you look at our latest acquisition, which is the Exxon mobile MPN shallow water. Seplat, 550 people. MPN brought 850 people. So bigger, more assets and everything else, a different culture. So a US company culture, but I would say what was good about MPN was that they ran it very locally. Okay, so we had 850 very talented, very experienced Nigerians, and therefore when you combine the two together, do the cultures fit? And we've been spending this year really looking at how we put it together and how we then have success well into the future. It's not something you want to rush. The 2020 acquisition we made were 100 people. We learned a lot from that with the Eland acquisition. Now this is much bigger, it's more complex. But we're excited, and I think there's an enthusiasm because Seplat's strategy, I think, is very clear. It's very clear in what we're trying to do as an indigenous company and really operate as first world, the best in the world operations based in Nigeria. And we have the capability to do that. So the integration, culture, people, and then all the other things that go along with integration.
Let's get to the meat of this discussion, which is financing, because that's the bottom line. You've got to find partnerships and collaborations and those who are ready to work with you to acquire assets and be sure that, and there's a whole lot of money on the table, as it were. So give me, in my audience, a sense of how you were able to work through both local and international partnerships to deliver the size of funding that you need to make those acquisitions over the recent years.
Yeah, and I think you've picked it up on a really good one, local and international. It's combining the two. Local financing is very critical to what we do because the financiers understand the terrain we're in. And so Seplat's always combined both. When we look at financing, we don't look at one type of financing. So we're not a sort of company that only looks at reserve-based lending or acquisition financing. We look at banks and all different types of banks, from local banks, commercial banks, international, development banks, and everything else. But then also we have a Eurobond, which is our third Eurobond, which we completed earlier this year. And in that Eurobond, which I'm pleased to say, through the evolution of that Eurobond, we're now rated higher than the sovereign. So we've managed to pierce the sovereign ceiling as a quality company that we, Seplat is. And then also we have equity. So it's a blending of all the different types of capital we have, from equity to debt to Eurobonds, etc. And it's ensuring that they all interact well with each other. And our strategy as a company is, look, Nigeria, there's always going to be a bump in the road. That's just the reality of life. What we try to do with our providers of capital is warn them as much as we can, tell them about the bumps in the road if we can in advance, and then tell them how we're managing it. And it's an openness, it's a dialogue, which means we've been able to, in the 15 years, really have built some very strong relationships. And I think you're right, it's a partnership. By the way, the P in Seplat equals partnership. That was our strategy.
I love that. Give me a round of applause. And when you have these combined, structured financing portfolio to deliver those acquisitions, how do you manage those different types of partnerships to ensure that your operational management, whatever, stay together on course? Because you're managing a lot of folks in the room.
Yeah, we are, but we have a lot of experience. Like a lot of our team have come out of banks, other financing houses. We have a lot of coordination, so we take our time. We like to, give you an example. We put up 2 weeks ago a Capital Markets Day. We did a full presentation to 2030, and one of the reasons beyond giving the equity holders, the future is actually your providers of capital to really see how Seplat's going to set its stall out for the next 5 years. Now that process started in May time, and it was done in September. So we spent a lot of time trying to capture our business in a very understandable and very clear way. And that helps with the coordination. So when people are coordinated, they see what your strategy is, they see where you're going as a company, it's clear, then you can get everyone aligned.
As far as some of the assets and partners you're working with, and I know the floating LNG is one of them, so how soon are you making some announcements in terms of sealing that off? I got some partners in the room.
Well, I think Julius is out here somewhere. I can see him in the front. Look, we've got, Seplat Onshore is very clear on its gas strategy. Okay, we have 3 gas plants. We've been, we're one of the biggest suppliers of gas domestically, and a lot of that gas goes into the power sector. We've acquired Mobile Producing, and there wasn't really a gas strategy, but we've got 10 TCF of gas. It's massive. I mean, if you put that in context, people in the room operating in different countries, 10 TCF of gas is a really massive amount of gas. Should be able to support a BCF a day. So what we've done now is looked at all the various projects, whether it be supplying onshore LNG projects, domestic gas projects into Akwa Ibom State, and then obviously one of our assets, Yoho, is stranded. There's no connections into the pipeline system, and it's primed for floating LNG. So UTM are developing a floating LNG project, and we're getting close to agreeing some commercial terms on that.
How soon is that?
Very close, very close.
Okay. I think in your comment earlier, you talked about bumps in the road, and sometimes I'm beginning to see how much patience you have. And I'm sure my audience in the room would want to know how you managed to be patient with the regulatory institutional framework in Nigeria to ensure, I'm sure that acquisition, one of those who made recently, took a few years to come to fruition. So talk to me about the regulatory environment and how you manage it to hold on tenaciously. And each time you report on the market, and as a journalist, and I see that line there, that, we're still on course for this acquisition, we're going to report on it, and you hold on and on and on until it was eventually approved by the Nigerian government. Folks here in the room want to learn from you how you navigate that in Nigeria.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd say is...
Which, of course, is an issue in terms of delayed...
Yeah, there are other reasons why our deal was delayed, but I think, what the President Tinubu's been doing through, as he's the Minister of Petroleum, is really creating an enabling environment. So where maybe previously there were blockages everywhere, Nigeria is really going, look, the doors are open, let's create an enabling environment for oil and gas sector. Let's look at the National Oil Company and NPC, our partner, in all these blocks. How can we do it? How can we move it forward? The GCO of NNPC has a monthly meeting within the industry. If you look at the regulatory side of things, PIA, those are presidential directives, are all enabling on how do we make it easier? Yeah. When I look at the NUPRC, which approved our transaction, whilst we took a long time to get to the green light to go ahead, I think that process with the regulator was pretty efficient. It started in September. It was largely done by end of October, November. So it was pretty quick and a thorough process. So it's much more transparent. And that's critical, right? So we all know governments and regulators have to go through process. It's very important. But it's very important to also very clear what that process is. Put it on the website, clearly follow it, and be consistently apply it across all acquisitions. Now, Nigeria at the end of last year approved 5 deals. Over the course of last year, I mean, that is massive, right? So you think that, if you look at how many billions of dollars, how many billions of barrels were approved, that was a big process to get over the line. And I think that's why today there's a lot more interest in Nigeria. There's a lot you can see it here, everywhere. Nigeria is really going ahead and moving forward and growing the production. There's a target for 3 million barrels of oil by 2030, in alignment with the onshore shallow water and the deep water. So it's open for business, I think.
Yeah, I get it. Again, I saw what McKinsey just put up. There's still a whole lot of assets to pick up in Nigeria, except that looking to pick up any other asset anytime soon.
Well, you know, we've just gone to the buffet. We've filled our plate full of food. We've now sat down at the table. We probably shouldn't go back to the buffet yet, right? Until we start eating what we've got. But look, we have a business development team. We're always looking at stuff. We're looking at stuff in Nigeria. It's our DNA, our capabilities. It's really been the value of the company. So we'll look stuff there. Beyond the shores of Nigeria, I think we've got enough on our plate at the minute to do that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. Yeah. Not every opportunity is the right opportunity for you. You know, and us, we just look at it. Does it meet our return criteria? Does it meet within a strategy? And can we really grow what we buy?
So you've got assets that are profitable today, and how do you ensure that they're resilient for the future, the dynamics of the industry, whether it's in Nigeria, within the context of Africa and the global oil and gas market?
Yeah, I mean, look, so we debate this at the board a lot. We can't predict the future. We've no idea.
I wish I
decline.
could.
Yeah, none of us could. We wouldn't be here if we could. But you know, I think in a way, all you can do is ensure that you are a low-cost operator. Okay, so if the production falls, it's going to knock off the expensive stuff first. So what we try to do is really push down our operating costs, be more efficient in capex, in drilling, etc., and really be comparable to the world of a cheap operator. And then if production falls or demand falls, they're still going to take our oil and gas. Gas, I must say, is a really transition fuel. Yeah. We're very big into it, okay? And I think that's really the secret of the stability of Seplat is you've got 20, 30, 40 years of gas. And even if the oil price demand falls or oil demand falls, which I don't think it will, my personal view, but gas won't. And gas is very important domestically and also international for the world. It's helping the transition, and we're very big into it.
My exit question is your thoughts on the path and the trajectory for African independence, and we've seen a whole lot of indigenous energy companies, whether it's in Nigeria and Angola and elsewhere, making a lot of inroads into the waters or the territories where the IOCs are stepping aside and you folks are picking them up. What else would you like to see happen in that space moving forward, broadly speaking?
You know, first of all, I'm very excited. You know, in my banking days back in 2010, we projected that there has to be an emergence of independence in Africa. It's taken time, but now we have it, and particularly in Nigeria and elsewhere. So that criticality is you need 10, 15, 20 Seplats, right? Yeah. Because what that will then do is, from an international perspective, it'll be a very attractive. Oh, we're running over, but it's very attractive. So we need more.
All right, and that's the exit answer. Please, a round of applause for my guest, Roger Brown, the CEO of Seplat Energy PLC.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.